go over those match facts. That was such a cool thing that Bundesliga did. And Lucas and Elif spoke a lot to what Mahmoud was just saying, where you guys really want to stay on the cutting edge of all this technology and make sure fans have the best experience possible, right? And one of the more visible ways y'all have done that so far, I think, is with Match Facts. Let's discuss it. No, it was a big project for both partners here. Can you give us a brief overview of what all went into like the ideation for Match Facts and how far it's come so far?
Yeah, in my words, it's always Match Facts at its core, in a nutshell, is really advanced real-time statistics based on machine learning. So designed to help our viewers, our fans, better understand the mechanics of a match, player strategies, why a team behaves like this, if this was an outstanding goal or just a usual one, and provide really insights into a match that our fans and partners have never seen before. So new storytelling, talking points. If we would meet at a bar and I would have the Bundesliga app open, I can tell you, of course, that there was a goal shot, but I can tell you this was an expected goal of 5%. And it's really...
And you would get it. You would get it. It's like this. The Match Facts is really something where you can talk easily over a barbecue. It's easy. People can understand it. It's these advanced statistics really where about the game, and it's really meant to augment the viewing experience of the fans. That was really the initial idea and vision behind it. And it's definitely the most visible, I think, product or innovation solution that we've done together. But behind it, or underneath it, that we've done quite a lot of things in really building this centralized platform for gathering all of this data in real time from the stadium, essentially, and processing it and then offering it as data feeds that can be used by things like the Match Facts, essentially. So
plus it began really to become a foundation for new cool things that we built. We will talk later on. So from the things that I see as a fan, it turned out in the years also into really valuable data points for us to build even more cool things with this. But that's the cliffhanger for later. But
setting it up beautifully there, Christian.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I think from a fan perspective, right? I grew up, I thought football or soccer was fun. I wasn't a huge fan of like the professional sport. I didn't see it as much. And honestly, after talking with Lucas and Elif last year about Match Facts, I started watching the games more. One, way more accessible to me. Like I thought, like I learned way faster about the ins and outs of the game than I would have without them. And two, honestly, I got so into the keeper save probability one that I joined a Sunday league as a keeper because I thought it was so fun. I was like, man, this low probability thing's kind of cool. So definitely inspired me as a viewer, inspired me as a fan. So let's talk about that, though. I know Match Facts started as something for the fans. It's evolved a little bit since then, right?
Yeah. So it is initially for fans, like we mentioned earlier. And actually, that reminds me of an anecdote I thought Christian the other day. I was once I was talking to an Uber driver on my way home, and he was like, "Hey, what do you do for work?" I usually just say I work for Amazon, and 90% of the people, oh, okay, so it's package delivery or something like this, whatever. So I told him. So I was a bit proactive, and I told him I work for Amazon, but not the Amazon.com that you know. And he was like, yeah, I know Amazon has a lot of subsidiaries and companies. There's also AWS, right? And I was like, yes, I work for AWS, exactly. How did you know that?
It's such a breath of fresh air when somebody knows.
Exactly. I was like so happy he knew where I worked. And when he was telling me that he was, we're in Germany, he was watching a lot of Bundesliga matches or games, and you would typically see these Match Facts powered by AWS. And I was like, yeah, I know these Match Facts. I know the statistics that you guys are doing. And it was such a really refreshing experience and discussion I had there. So definitely, I think it's we started with that, or that started as something to augment or improve the viewing experience of the fans, but that eventually then transitioned into being also more or useful for commentators and content creators. And Christian will talk about this in a minute. But yeah, now we could actually use this match fact to generate some talking points using data only. For example, you've mentioned the keeper save probability, but for example, when there is a goal probability, and let's say the striker shot the ball, and the goal was scored, but then that was a very low goal probability. Then we actually developed solutions where we in real time check all of the goal probabilities of that season that were successfully scored. And if this is, for example, the lowest goal probability this season, that's a good talking point eventually for a commentator to say on TV. So, and then we're pushing these talking points in real time to the commentators. And that goes more and more complex in, for example, if the game is slow and there's not much happening, then we have some set of rules that we run. And we say, for example, if a player has been under a lot of pressure, and that's a match fact, actually, pressure handling, but he successfully managed, for example, to have successful passes for over, 80% of the time. So that's actually some talking points that we push to the commentators. Yeah. So that really from this initial vision of the fans, it really then got used by a way broader audience, essentially. And I think I got ahead of
Yeah, I was going to say, so to summarize real quick, basically we went from match facts being for the fans, maybe newbies to the sport like me, helping us learn more, helping us really understand what's happening in the game a little bit better. Like, was that as good of a save as I thought it was? It's like, yes, it was amazing. And then y'all realize, like, wait, we've got all this data now that explains the game at a deeper level, not just for fans, but for the commentary teams. Like, that gives them talking points. Like you said, if that player's under pressure so much more than everybody else, but is still succeeding and passing 80% of the time, I feel like that's a great talking point for the commentary teams. And I think you actually have a visual of kind of what the commentary teams would see nowadays with these facts coming in, right?
Right. Yeah. We do.
Yeah. Let's bring that up real quick.
Yeah, let's bring it up, please. Yeah. So exactly. So what you see here, this is a tool called Match Analysis Hub that is available for commentators, broadcasters, media partners of the Bundesliga. And this is what they would see during a live match. They would see all of this data flowing in real time with the positions of the players. And here, for example, you were looking at attacking zones. If you can pause for a second.
Yep.
Oops. Yeah, exactly. So here you can see some of these match facts that are pushed to them that they can see, and they choose or not to talk about them. I mean, it's at the end, it's at their discretion, they make the call. So you see these attacking zones, for instance, we saw earlier also some goal probability, pressure handling, and so on. And all of these, I mean, we when I say we, it's really the Bundesliga and the AWS teams. We did not just come up with something and said, hey, let's see. I mean, we think this is interesting. Let's push it to the commentators and see. There was actually a process, and let Christian talk about that for a second.
Yeah, that's important because Bundesliga match facts were not built from our perspective just with some ideas we had about assumptions, but really the development was driven by commentators itself. So we had regular workshops that talked about exactly those things. So what are the things what kind of information do you lack during a match, especially when it's minute 18 and it's still 0-0? So what kind of stories would you like to tell? And then going back, looking into our data and saying, okay, what else can we provide as additional value? So this is really working backwards in perfection for me from the lens of a commentator and its needs, plus then also providing the additional value for fans and partners to make the broadcasting product, so the live match experience even much better than without Bundesliga match facts. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's gone from the fans to like the commentary teams to now we're kind of great transition here. We're going to use some Gen AI tools to kind of generate, like you were saying, Christian, that next step with stories and everything else to help people get even deeper into the game, right? And before we transition to that next topic, we actually had a great question here. I think more for you, Christian. Are we using Gen AI to assist, since we're going to be talking obviously about Gen AI here in just a minute, are we using Gen AI beyond match facts to even assist with coaches, not just broadcasters? Like, do coaches have game strategies and stuff built on these match facts, maybe helping with AI? What's that look like? Or right now it's fans and commentary teams?
Yeah, that's a good question. And to explain a bit where our responsibility ends is exactly on the sports side for the clubs. So we as DFL are responsible for the league at all. The data that we've seen in this match analysis hub is of course available also to clubs as to be used for their training, but we are not allowed really to go into providing sports or performance related information or hints. So that's really the ownership of the clubs, because that's how they also compete each other in the competition and differentiate each other. So that's where our responsibility ends a bit.
Exactly.
But when you look into sports, definitely a huge topic to leverage AI and Gen AI for also improving the performance of a team on a sports level.
Gotcha. I think just a follow up. I'm sorry. We just have a follow up too, saying, tacking on to that, maybe setting up our next segment even better. What are the techniques that we use to ensure AI generated commentary feels natural and engaging? To be clear, I don't think the AI is actually doing the commentary. You guys are just generating talking points for the live commentators to discuss if they so choose. Correct? Am I understanding that?
Yeah, and that's why we understood what you with AWS mean with data as the differentiator. So that's exactly the point here, to leverage all these data, making them accessible to that an AI sounds natural, sounds like us and not like an AI. And the second aspect is that we have some guidelines and communication rules, of course. So we do not directly publish content to our fans. We always have somebody from our side having an eye on this, reviewing, refining, making adjustments so that it really feels authentic, feels like Bundesliga content and not random AI content.